Hi kids, I'm back. Hope you guys had a great day yesterday and did something fun. Um, Hopefully with your families and a great weekend. Anyway, we're back today and we're going to read some more. Let me get my glasses on first. We're going to read some more of the Magic Tree House, the Dinosaurs Before the Dark. And today we're going to be on chapter 5. But if you remember that, well, you probably don't remember because I haven't posted the other ones yet. So anyway, let's see. They actually got to, Annie and Jack actually got to see the dinosaur. And anyway, we're going to go from there. Let's do chapter 5. It's called, whoops, excuse me. It is called Gold in the Grass. Go, go, said Jack. He threw his notebook into his pack. He pushed Annie towards the rope ladder. Bye, Henry, she said. Go, said Jack. He gave Annie another push. Quit it, she said. But she started up the ladder. Jack scrambled after her. Jack and Annie tumbled into the treehouse. They were panting as they looked out the window. They were panting as they looked out the window at the dinosaur. It was standing on the hilltop, eating flowers off a tree. Oh man, whispered Jack. We're in a time long ago. The dinosaur looked like a huge rhinoceros with 3 horns instead of 1. It had 2 long horns above each eye. And another one grew out from its nose. It had a big shield-like things behind its head. Triceratops? Said Jack. Does he eat people? Whispered Annie. I'll look it up. Jack grabbed the dinosaur book. He flipped through the pages. There, said Jack, pointing to a picture of Triceratops. He read the caption. The Triceratops lived in the late Cretaceous period. This plant-eating dinosaur weighed over 12,000 pounds. Do you guys know how much 12,000 pounds is? Well, that's a whole lot of weight. That's more than your whole family. It's a lot of families. But 12,000 pounds is a lot of weight. You don't want to be near a dinosaur, and you definitely don't want him to step on you because squish, you're gone. Jack slammed the book shut. Just plants, no meat. Good, said Annie. Let's go see him up close. Are you crazy? Said Jack. Don't you want to take notes about him? Asked Annie. We're probably the first people in the whole world to ever see a real live Triceratops. Jack sighed. Annie was right. Okay, let's go, he said. Jack shoved the dinosaur book into his pack. He slung his pack over his shoulder. Annie started down the ladder, and Jack followed her. Just promise you won't pet him, Jack called down to Annie. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't kiss him, said Jack. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't talk to him. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't. Don't worry, said Annie. Annie and Jack stepped off the ladder. The pteranodon gave them a friendly look. Annie blew him a kiss. "Be back soon, Henry," she called. "Shh," said Jack, and he led the way slowly and carefully through the ferns. When Jack and Annie reached the bottom of the hill, they knelt behind a bush. Annie started to speak, but Jack quickly put his finger to her lips. Then he and Annie peeked out at the Triceratops. The dinosaur was bigger than a truck. He was eating the flowers off a magnolia tree. Jack slipped his notebook out of his pack. Can you imagine? The dinosaur was bigger than a truck. Have you ever seen a truck? Or maybe your mom or dad has a truck? Trucks are big, and the dinosaur was bigger than the truck. So dinosaurs are pretty big. So when Jack pulled out his notebook, this is what he wrote: that he eats flowers. Annie nudged him. Jack ignored her. He studied the Triceratops again. He wrote, "Eats slowly." So we know the Triceratops eats flowers and he eats slowly. Annie nudged him harder. Jack looked at her. Annie pointed to herself. She walked her fingers through the air. She pointed to the dinosaur. She smiled. Is she teasing? Jack wondered. Annie waved at Jack. Jack started to grab her. She laughed and jumped away. She fell into the grass in full view of the Triceratops. "Get back!" whispered Jack. Too late. The big dinosaur had spotted Annie. He gazed down at her from the hilltop. Half of a magnolia flower was sticking out of his mouth. "Oops," said Annie. "Get back," Jack said again. "He looks nice, Jack," Annie said. "Nice? Watch out for his horns," Annie said Jack. Annie said Jack. The Triceratops gazed calmly down at Andy. Then he turned and looped down the side of the hill. "Bye," said Annie. She turned back to Jack. "See?" Jack grunted, but he wrote in his notebook, "Nice." "Come on, let's look around some more," said Annie. Here they are. As Jack started after Annie, he saw something glittering in the tall grass. Jack reached down and picked it up. It was a gold medallion. A letter was engraved on the medallion, a fancy M. Do you know the letter M? Like for Mary, Maranatha, Molly, Maggie, all kinds of different names. "Oh man, someone has been before us," Jack said softly. Now we're going to chapter 6, Dinosaur Valley. "Annie, look at this," Jack called. "Look what I found." Annie had gone up to the hilltop. She was picking a flower. Oops, sorry, lost my place. She was picking a flower from the magnolia tree. "Annie, look, a medallion," shouted Jack. But Annie wasn't paying attention to Jack. She was staring at something on the other side of the hill. "Oh, wow," she said. Clutching her magnolia flower, she took off down the hill. "Annie, come back," Jack shouted. But Annie had disappeared. "Oh, brother," Jack muttered. He stuffed the gold medallion into his jean pocket. Then Jack heard Annie shriek. "Annie!" he said. Jack heard another sound as well, a deep bellowing sound, like a tuba. "Jack! Come here, quick!" Annie called. Jack raced up the hill. When he got to the top, he gasped. The valley below was filled with nests, big nests made of mud. The nests were filled with tiny dinosaurs. Annie was crouching next to one of the nests. Towering over her was a gigantic duck-billed dinosaur. "Don't panic. Don't move," said Jack. He stepped slowly down the hill towards Annie. The huge dinosaur was waving her arms and making her tuba sound. She didn't like it because somebody was over her babies. See all those little dinosaur eggs down in the mud pile? Yeah, the dinosaur wasn't happy somebody was there. Mamas don't like when you mess with their babies. Jack stopped. He didn't want to get close. He knelt on the ground. "Okay, move towards me slowly," he said. Annie started to stand up. "Don't stand. Crawl," said Jack. Clutching her flower, Annie crawled towards Jack. Still bellowing, the duck-billed dinosaur followed her. Annie froze, which means she got real still. She didn't know what to do. "Keep going," Jack said. Annie started crawling again. Jack inched further down the hill until he was just an arm's distance from Annie. He reached out and grabbed her hand. He pulled Annie towards him. "Stay down," Jack said. He crouched next to her. "Bow your head. Pretend to chew." "Chew?" said Annie. "Yes," said Jack. I read that's what you do if a mean dog comes to you." "She's no dog, Jack," said Annie. "Jack chew?" "Just chew," said Jack. Jack and Annie both bowed their heads and pretended to chew. Soon the dinosaur grew quiet. Jack looked up. "I don't think she's mad anymore," he said. "You saved me," said Annie. "Thanks." "You have to use your brain, Annie," said Jack. "You can't just go running to a nest of babies. There's always a mother nearby." Annie stood up. "Annie, don't," said Jack. Too late. Annie held out her magnolia flower to the dinosaur. "I'm sorry I made you worry about your babies," she said. The dinosaur moved closer to Annie. She grabbed the flower from her hand. She reached for another. "No more," said Annie. The dinosaur let out a sad tuba sound. "But there are more flowers up there," Annie said. She pointed to the top of the hill. "I'll get you some." Annie hurried up the hill. The dinosaur waddled after her. Jack quickly looked at the dinosaur babies. Some were crawling out of their nest. "Where are the other mothers?" Jack wondered. Jack took out the dinosaur book. He flipped through the pages. He found a picture of some duck-billed dinosaurs. He read the caption. "The Anatosauruses lived in colonies. While a few mothers babysit the nest, others look for food." That's interesting. So some of the moms will watch their babies, and some of them, while the other ones go look for the food. So therefore, the babies are always being watched. They're never unattended. So there was probably more mothers close by looking for food. "Hey, Jack," called Annie. Jack looked up. Annie was at the top of the hill feeding magnolia flowers to the giant Anatosaurus. "Guess what?" Annie said. "She's nice, too." Suddenly, the Anatosaurus made her terrible tuba sound. Annie crouched down and started to chew. The dinosaur charged down the hill. She seemed afraid of something. Jack put the book on top of his pack. He hurried to Annie. I wonder why she ran away, said Annie. We were starting to be friends. Jack looked around. What he saw in the distance almost made him faint. An enormous monster was coming across the plain. A lot of stuff going on down there, isn't it? The monster was walking on two strong legs. It was swinging a long, thick tail and dangling two tiny arms. It had a huge head, and its jaws were wide open. Even from far away, Jack could see its long gleaming teeth. Tyrannosaurus Rex, whispered Jack. And that's all for today. So that ends we read chapter 5 and 6. And we'll come back tomorrow and we'll start on chapter 7. It's getting pretty interesting, isn't it? If you like dinosaurs, this is a great book. If you don't like dinosaurs, it's still a great book. It's very interesting because they're in a long, long ago place. Because as we know, we do not have dinosaurs this day and time. That was way back in the day. Anyway, hope you all are doing wonderful. And I love you, and I will talk to you later. Bye.